Hello, my fellow Americans. Today is December 5th, 2024, and this is A Quiet Rage. Let's start with current events. Probably the biggest banner headline, since we last spoke is the blanket pardon of one Hunter Biden. You know, some of you conservative folks like to paint liberals like myself as these snowflakes who get their nose all out of joint about the smallest little thing. There was actually a story with video and everything and commentary about Hunter being seen leaving an Arby's smiling. That was on the Cryon, whatever, the scroll thing. Hunter Biden smiles days after his pardon. I want to be very clear. I tried to think if there was something about this situation that could make me care less. And I could not care less about President Biden pardoning in order to protect his only living son. Don't care. Great. I'm all about it. I'm fine with it. So while Fox News goes crazy about this man smiling because he was pardoned, I don't care. I am nonplussed. Doesn't bother me. Let's talk about pardons for just 1 minute. First point, presidential pardons have always, are currently, and will continue ad nauseum, ad infinitum, to be controversial. That's just how it is. Nobody ever gets pardoned and everybody's happy. But for a second point, let's talk about some of the pardons that the previous president did while he was in office the last time. There's something like 237, I think, is the number of persons pardoned or pardons that came out of the previous Trump presidency. I'm just gonna scroll here just slightly off camera, and you're just gonna have to trust that I'm actually at the website justice.gov, the Office of the Pardon Attorney. Again, the link will be in the description. The very first pardon that Trump did was Sheriff Joseph Arpaio, or Joseph M. Arpaio, for contempt of court. All right. That was just because he thought it was fun. Trump did, I'm sure of it. Pardon number two, unauthorized retention of defense information. Number 3, obstruction of justice, false statements, perjury. Number 4, violation of the White Slave Traffic Act. A guy named John Arthur Johnson, also known as Jack Johnson. Campaign finance or contribution fraud. Then there are 2, what appear to be maybe a father and son, both charged with use of fire to damage and destroy property of the United States. Murder. Mail fraud, conspiracy to possess and distribute cocaine. Conversion of government property, stealing firearms, illegal gambling, violating the Sherman Act. I'm not sure what that is. Premeditated murder, attempted murder, murder twice, the same person. I haven't even gotten to that. That's just, we're to 2019 at this point. it goes on. Pardons are always going to be controversial, and you know just as well as I do, Mr. and Mrs. Conservative, that once Trump got in office, he was going to go after Hunter Biden 1. He's probably still going to try and go after a lot of other people. We know this. We know this to be... You're not going to deny it, are you? Please tell me you're not going to deny it. Anyway, I've been hinting a couple of times that I had some thoughts for protest voters, people that either voted against or just voted not at all for president, voted against Kamala Harris, or just didn't voted the rest of the ticket and abstained from voting for president in protest. Probably a lot of people protest voting because of Harris's stance on Israel. You do know, please tell me that you know, that Trump's stance on Israel is far worse than Harris's stance on Israel, which is not to say that Harris's stance is a good one. It's not one that I agree with. But what has Trump said? He wants Israel to finish the job. I mean, what? Do you really think, protest voters, do you really think that life in Palestine, life on the West Bank, life in the Gaza Strip is going to be any better with Trump in the White House than it would have been if Harris was in the White House? Do you really? Please tell me you don't think that's going to be better with Trump. You've got to be smarter than that. Third-party voters. I'm going to talk to third-party and protest voters now, both groups. First of all, I would love for there to be a vibrant, viable third party in this country. I would love that. I'm going to tell you also right now, I am not personally willing to put in the work to make it happen. To me, my time is better spent trying to change the system we currently have, working within the system we currently have to change it, rather than moving outside the system to try and change it. And I have an analogy for you. I need you to think of politicians like vehicles, motorized vehicles. What a politician, especially the president, is not is a car. You don't go to the dealership, the voting booth in this case, and get to pick everything you want. You're not going to get the paint that you want, the engine that you want, the tires. You're not going to find a politician that hits every single one of the things that you agree with. If you do, you're lucky. But for the most part, such a thing doesn't exist. What a politician is a bus. A bunch of us are going to get on the bus, and we're all going to go more or less in the direction that we want to get, but you're going to have to get to the bus stop, and when the bus gets to your stop, it might, if you're lucky, it might stop right in front of your destination. Maybe. If you're going to a sports venue, if you're going to a big shopping mall, yeah, you might end up exactly, with that politician, with that bus, you might end up exactly where you want to be. Probably not, though. If you want to go to your barber and you want to be exactly on time for your appointment, you're going to have to pick the best bus route to get you as close to where you want to be, and then you're going to have to do the legwork. You're going to have to go the final 200-300 yards to get to where you actually want to be. Stop thinking of politicians as either perfect or or you're not going to pick them. It's a bus. It's getting you as close, you and a lot of your friends, a lot of your fellow countrymen and women. We need to think of a gender neutral country. Anyway, your fellow citizens, there it is, your fellow citizens. We are all trying to go somewhere. And you might have to get on one bus, ride it as close as it can get you, and then get off and take another bus, another politician, later on to get where you want to go. Don't expect any single politician to take you exactly where you want to go. That's a fool's errand. Pick the politician that's going to get you as close to where you want yourself and our society, our country to be as possible. Go with that one. We've seen this was a perfect example. We're fairly certain that a large number of people either protest voted another way, voted for a third party as a protest vote, that's one, or didn't vote for the president at all, or just stayed home because they didn't like either candidate. Have we not learned our lesson? We've now ended up with this idiot twice elected because, in large part, people were like, well, I just don't like her. She's not exactly what I want. You're never, especially for president, you are never going to get exactly what you want. You gotta pick the one that's as close to what you want as you can get. And by the way, conservatives, like me or not, like what I have to say or not, but you know just as well as I do that Trump is not going to have his mind changed by anyone unless he wanted his mind changed in the first place. So to my fellow liberals, especially protest voters, we might have been able to push President Harris in the direction that we wanted her to go. We have zero chance of pushing a President Trump in any sort of direction. He's not going to listen to us at all. He didn't the first time. He sure as hell isn't going to this time. Now, I said I would love for there to be a viable and another V word. Third party. I would love for there to be a third party that works in this country. I would love for that to be a thing. I need you to understand, and this is why I'm not willing to put in the work. I need you to understand, to get a viable third party to field a presidential candidate that can actually win is going to take minimum decades of work. Decades. Part of the problem is there are already a bunch of third parties out there, alternate parties. But they're an awful lot like lobsters in a barrel. As soon as one starts to claw its way out a little bit, the other ones grab it by the tail and pull it back down again. Also, our third parties currently are a little too niche, many of them, and too extreme, others. You're not going to pull from the center, which is where your constituency is going, from which your constituency will come for a third party, is from the center. It's not going to come from the ends of the political spectrum. It's just not. So it's going to take you decades, and you're going to have to start small and local and build over years and years, and you're gonna lose a lot, and you're gonna have to find candidates that, one, are actually good people, and two, not crazy, like what's his name, Rob Johnson. The last that guy was fucking Looney Tunes. I'm not even gonna. Anyway, you're gonna need candidates that are good people, candidates that are not crazy, candidates that are willing to also put in the work and stick with it. Because if you keep coming back, even if you've got the same name, if your third party has the same name, if you're not coming back every cycle with a name that people will start to recognize, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you if you didn't already know this, but elections in America are in part a popularity contest. So if people don't know who your candidates, at least know your candidate's name, they'll be like, well, I don't know person X. I've heard of person Y. Check the box. There are people who vote that way. You have to have name recognition, and you're going to have a candidate that's done things. So it's going to take a long time, and you're going to lose a lot. How do I know this? We've had two rather high-profile cases, test cases, one might say, of third-party candidates in higher-up positions. There was Ross Perot, who ran, fairly certainly ran twice. 1992 was, I think, the second time he ran, and in his second election cycle, he actually did get enough votes. I think it's 10%, 15%, whatever it is, to qualify for federal funding for your next election cycle for your party. Well, what happened? Ross Perot was like, I'm done. He didn't run again. He decided he was done. Second one, a little later in my childhood, I think it was in junior high when this happened, Jesse Ventura, a wrestler, WWF wrestler turned actor, ran for and won the governorship of the state of Minnesota as an independent, as a third-party candidate, and he won. He successfully won that election. He split the vote because people were tired of both the Republicans and the Democrats in the state of Minnesota. He won. Guess how many independents, how many third-party candidates have won the governorship of the state of Minnesota since Jesse Ventura left office? Goose egg. 0. That's the problem with going for the highest office straight out of the gate. The revolution dies with that leader. As soon as Ross Perot dropped out, nobody's been close. As soon as Jesse Ventura left office, and there was no heir apparent, there was no infrastructure, there was no party beneath him. There was nobody else coming in and doing the work. As soon as he left office, poof, gone. We've had, the state of Minnesota has had Democrats and Republicans ever since. So that's, if you want, as I do, if you want a viable third party in this country, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to lose. You're going to have to get punched in the nose at the ballot box repeatedly. And it's going to take decades. So if you really want to do it, by all means, please do. Please do. That would be wonderful. As I said, I'm not willing to put in that work. I want to work in the system that we have to change the system that we have. I'm not willing to move outside of it and agitate that much, because it's just, It hasn't worked yet. If it didn't work for Teddy Roosevelt, who ran as an independent 100 years ago, it's not going to work now. That's what I got for you today. Cars. Don't think of politicians as cars, think of them as buses. And if you want to build a third party, have at it. But you got to start now, and you got to know that it's going to be 30, 40, 50 years before you are really, truly a player. Nationally. It's just that that's how it is. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did. Spend time with family. I'm lucky enough to be in a family that we all more or less politically agree, so we don't have to argue, which is kind of nice. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I will have an episode for you next week. I'm probably going to take the next 2 weeks off because, it'll be holidays and such. And then it's going to be after the new year, and that's a whole other ball of fun. Anyway, until next time, keep that quiet.